everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Hierarchy of Reads. Today I have some books that I've recently accumulated that I really want to share with you all. So if you are interested in that, I'm here, I'm all ready. I've got a glass of wine, drink responsibly. I've got my favorite cozy cow slippers, and I am ready. So if you want to join me, please continue watching. Alright, so for today I have 3 nonfiction books to share with you all and 4 fiction books that I've recently acquired. I have been purchasing less and I'm so proud and happy with that. But since I have been reading more, I have also allowed myself to buy some books because, you know, when I try to go all or nothing, that doesn't last very long. So instead I've just been more picky about what it is that I purchase and realistic with myself, right? Like, is this something that I really want to read and really want to purchase? Is it something that I need right now? Is it something that I'm likely going to read very soon? And if not, I try not to purchase it. I also have a video coming up soon of books that I'm currently reading and finally have made it through enough books to be able to do a February wrap up. So towards the beginning of next month, I'm going to be sharing that as well. So to start with the fiction books that I have recently accumulated, I have The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dulles, The CIA, and the Rise of America's Secret Government by David Talbot. And I decided to go ahead and purchase this for a couple of different reasons. The first one is that I recently read, oh goodness, what is his name? I read a book about, hold on, let me look. Manson. I read a book about Charles Manson. It was Manson, The Life and Times of Charles Manson by Jeff Gwynne. And I, more so interested than reading about Manson, I was interested in reading about the times, the 60s, and all the political intrigue and drama. And so this book and the premise in and of itself sounds very interesting to me. It is a thick chunker, and I have learned about myself that I make it very slowly through thick books. I think there's something about knowing that I have so much left to read that like mentally makes the process slower for me. I don't know what it is, but maybe someday in the next like century I will pick this up. I also have The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee, Native America from 1890 to the present by David Schrewer, and I purchased this because I am looking to read more about history from different perspectives. I have been interested in that for a long time, but especially as somebody who currently lives in Florida, and all of the book banning and questions on whether or not to teach children accurate history, or even adults accurate history, which includes history of all different kinds of people. I'm very passionate about, you know, really focusing in on that so I can learn more for myself, and so hopefully I can share that in some ways. So I'm looking forward to reading this. And then also with this is, I mean, it's different but connected in my mind. I'm also looking to read more about Asian American history, but I really don't know where to start. So if you've read any books on Asian American history, please go ahead and link that in the comment section below. I'd love to know and kind of get an idea of where to start. And the last nonfiction is The Woman I Think About at Night, Traveling the Paths of My Heroes by Mia Kankamaki. And it's been a while since I purchased this, so I'm just going to read the back because I remember that once I read the back, I said to myself, I need to buy this. So it says, what can a 40-something childless woman do? Bored with her life and feeling stuck, Mia Kankamaki leaves her job, sells her apartment, and decides to see the world following the path of her guardian angels, explorers and artists from history who have long inspired her. She flies to Tanzania and then to Kenya to see where Karen Blixen of Out of the Africa fame lived in the 1920s. In Japan, Mia attempts to cure her depression while researching Yayoi Kusama, the contemporary artist who has voluntarily lived in a psychiatric hospital for decades. In Italy, Mia spends her days looking for the works of forgotten Renaissance women painters at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and finally finds her heroines in the portraits of Sofonisba and Guisola, Lavinia Fontana, and Artemisia Gentileschi, who was raped as a teenager before becoming a renowned painter of female-dominated works. If these women could make it into the world hundreds of years ago, why can't Mia? A blend of travelogue, memoir, and biography, The Woman I Think About at Night is an around-the-world adventure about women forging their own paths in life. And just reading the back of that again really excited me about wanting to pick up and finally read this book, because I love the idea of using like people in the past who have lived and shared their expression of humanity with us as a way to help us get through these modern times, and as a source of inspiration and resilience, has always been so meaningful to me and something that really got me through some really tough times in my life. I know that, when we think about humanity and our interconnectedness with others, we typically think about the present, but we're also connected to those from the past. And I think it's a really magical and beautiful experience to be able to use, again, people from the past and their stories, but really we don't know their stories specifically from their perspective. So more accurately would be our interpretation of their expression of their humanity and their experiences. I find that to be such a beautiful thing. And so I really look forward to reading this and seeing what Mia Kankamaki has to say about what that was like for her. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the fiction books after I take a quick sip. All right, so I have 4 books here. And the first one I'm going to share is Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. A funny story. I purchased this because I was out running errands, and that's actually when I purchased most of these books. I was out running errands, and I had time to kill because the other person wasn't available when I thought that they would be available to do the errand. And so I found a bookstore to kill time in, of course, and I cannot go into a bookstore and not buy at least one book, usually many more. So I purchased this because I read it was like on like the sale shelf. All these were on the sale shelf. And I read it and I thought, wow, that sounds so interesting. And then as I was preparing for this video, I read it a little bit more, like I read some of the pages and I thought, my, that sounds so familiar. I realized I listened to this on audiobook a couple of years ago and didn't remember that when I purchased it. So I've actually already read this or listened to this, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't like it enough to keep it on my shelf, and it's a signed edition, so I'll either donate it to my local free little library or I'll sell it on my Pango account. But that's the first time I think I've ever done that, like bought a book that I already read, not remembering that I already read it. Is that common, or is it that I am in my 30s now and this is like a thing that I have to get used to? Let me know. All right, so the next book that I purchased is this, Chunker. It is The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honorée Fannin Jeffers. And I purchased this again because I was seeing this all over social media from book people that I really trust their recommendations on, and also honestly just referencing W.E.B. Du Bois. If you've read any of his writing, it's so powerful that mentioning him alone would get me to pick up the book. But I also read the description, and it sounds really, really interesting. It's talking about I'll just read it to you really quick if you don't mind. It's the great scholar W.E.B. Du Bois once wrote about the problem of race in America and what he called double consciousness, a sensitivity that every African American possesses in order to survive. Since childhood, Ailey Pearl Garfield has understood Du Bois' words all too well. Bearing the names of 2 formidable Black Americans, the revered choreographer Alvin Ailey and her great-grandmother Pearl, the descendant of enslaved Georgians and tenant farmers, Ailey carries Du Bois' problem on her shoulders. Ailey is reared in the North in the city, but spends summers in the small Georgia town of Chickasetta, where her mother's family has lived since their ancestors arrived from Africa in bondage. Since she was a child, Ailey has fought a battle for belonging that is made all the more difficult by a hovering trauma and whispers of women, her mother, Belle, her sister, Lydia, and a maternal line reaching back 2 centuries, who urge Ailey to succeed in their stead. To come to terms with her own identity, Ailey embarks on a journey through her family's past, uncovering the shocking tales of generations of ancestors, Indigenous, Black, and white in the Deep South. Along the way, Ailey must learn to embrace her full heritage, a legacy of oppression and resistance, bondage and independence, cruelty and resilience that is the story and the song of America itself. And so between the recommendations of book people that I really respect, the description, the cover, let's be real, the cover is also beautiful, and how could I not pick this up? So I'm really looking forward to reading this as well. The second to last book that I purchased is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. And I picked this up because the cover is beautiful, but it's more than just that, but that is a factor, like, come on. But also because Elif Shafak is the author of 10 Minutes and 38 Seconds in the Strange World, which I also read by her, and I can't really say I enjoyed it because it's not the type of book I think that you can enjoy, but I did appreciate it, and I did find her writing to be very, very beautiful, and kind of the concepts that she weaved into the story of that book to be very, very important and interesting. So I picked this book up, and I also read the description as well, and it's about these two teenagers who meet and they fall in love, but for one reason or another, I'm not quite sure why, their love is like forbidden, and then, you know, they go about and they live their life. War breaks out in the interim, and decades later they kind of come back to look for that lost love. And this tree is supposed to be some kind of like symbolic manifestation or representation of their love as well. And so I really loved that description of the story, so I kind of wanted to read this. And last but certainly not least, the last fiction book that I picked up and the last book that I have to share with you all today is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I purchased this again because people everywhere have been saying how good this is. And I'm not usually a big romance person, and I'm not one of those people who's like, ew, romance. It's just usually I'm really more interested in reading about different kinds of love and different kinds of relationships, like friendships and kinds of love that they don't really have names for, because, you know, at least in our culture, we don't tend to notice them as much. But people said that this is absolutely amazing, and so even though I don't really know what it's about, and I kind of want to keep it that way, I'm really looking forward to reading this one as well. Alright, so that is all that I have to share with you today. Again, I'd love to know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. I'd love to know if you think you might want to pick any of these up after hearing about them. And more generally speaking, I hope that you're all doing well despite all the mess that is happening out in the world, and I hope that you're taking care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, please be well.